Hi everyone, I'm Jennifer, and we're so glad you could join us today. We've got some great stories and tips to share about cooking, ingredients, and how to get creative in the kitchen. Let's dive in! Recently, I was preparing a dish for a small family gathering. One of our favorites, the creamy mushroom and herb risotto. The recipe really highlights white button mushrooms. They add a savory, earthy flavor that balances the creaminess of the risotto perfectly. It was for a cozy dinner to celebrate John's promotion at work, and I wanted everything to be just right. But when I started cooking, I realized I didn't have enough white button mushrooms. For those unfamiliar, white button mushrooms are those small, round mushrooms with a mild flavor. They're incredibly versatile and popular here in Texas, where they're used in everything from sautéed dishes to hearty stews. I often cook them in pasta dishes, stir-fries, and of course as risotto. But that day, I had to figure out how to make the dish work without my key ingredient. When I realized I didn't have enough white button mushrooms, I wanted to maintain the dish's earthy richness without just substituting with another mushroom type. Instead, I turned to roasted eggplant. I peeled and diced it into small cubes, then roasted it with a drizzle of olive oil until it had a firm but tender texture, almost mimicking the bite of mushrooms. To boost the umami flavor, I added a touch of soy sauce and balsamic vinegar, which really deepened the flavor profile of the risotto. The eggplant absorbed all the flavors, and with the added herbs and parmesan, it turned out to be a huge hit. My family couldn't even tell it was missing mushrooms at all, and it added a slightly smoky taste to the dish that everyone loved.
Wow, Jennifer, that sounds absolutely delicious. I love how you used eggplant instead of just another mushroom. How did you come up with the idea of adding soy sauce and balsamic vinegar? That's so creative.
Thank you, sir. I was thinking about how mushrooms bring the umami flavor, and I knew soy sauce could help recreate that savory depth. The balsamic added a bit of sweetness and acidity to balance it all out.
I love that you used eggplant, Jennifer. Here in Washington, eggplants are popular in summer. How did the texture compare to the mushrooms in the risotto? Did it hold up as well?
Great question, Emily. The texture was a little different. It wasn't as firm as mushrooms, but roasting the eggplant helped give it some bite. It worked surprisingly well in creamy risotto.
Oh, Jennifer, that's incredible. I love eggplant, especially here in Florida where we have fresh produce all year round. Do you think you'd use the eggplant substitution again for future recipes?
Thanks, Maya. Definitely. I think it's a great alternative, especially when you want something a little heartier or when you're out of mushrooms.
That's such a smart solution, Jennifer. I'm curious. Did you have to adjust the cooking time when you added the eggplant, or did it cook pretty much like the mushrooms would have?
Good question, Chloe. I did roast the eggplant separately first, so it took a little more time, but once it was added to the risotto, it blended in perfectly and didn't need any extra cooking.
I'll start with freshness. When buying white button mushrooms here in New York, I always look for mushrooms that are firm and smooth. Fresh ones shouldn't feel slimy or have spots. Firmness is key for dishes like stir-fries, where they need to hold their shape while absorbing flavor.
That's so true, Chloe. Here in Florida, I look at the color of the mushrooms. White button mushrooms should be bright white without any dark spots or discoloration. This indicates they're fresh, and it really makes a difference when I use them in lighter dishes like salads or even grilled. I totally agree, Maya. For me, I focus on the size of the mushrooms. In Washington, we like using them in everything from soups to casseroles, and for different dishes, the size can make a big difference. Smaller mushrooms cook quicker, while larger ones hold up better in longer cooking dishes like stews.
I love all these tips. I'd add the smell as a key factor when buying white button mushrooms. Fresh mushrooms should have a light, earthy aroma. If they smell sour or musty, they're past their prime. Here in California, we rely a lot on local markets, and freshness is everything, especially for soups and stir-fries.
These are all great points. Another thing to watch for is how the mushrooms are packaged. If they're in tightly sealed containers with condensation, they might spoil faster. Look for mushrooms with some air circulation. In Texas, I find they stay fresh longer when stored properly, especially in dishes like my risotto.
In California, if I'm out of white button mushrooms, I often use zucchini. It has a mild flavor and a similar texture when cooked. It's not quite as earthy, but it provides a light freshness, especially in stir-fries or pasta.
That's interesting, Sarah. Here in Florida, I'd go for portobello mushrooms. They're meatier and add a richer flavor than white buttons, so they're perfect for hearty dishes like grilled vegetables or sandwiches.
I love that. In Washington, when I'm out of white button mushrooms, I turn to shiitake mushrooms. They have a deeper, more intense flavor, which works great in soups and casseroles. They're not as mild, but they really add complexity to the dish.
Those are all great options. In New York, I like using cremini mushrooms when white button mushrooms aren't available. They're actually just a more mature version of the button mushroom, so they're slightly firmer and more flavorful, but still mild enough to blend into most dishes.
Thank you so much, ladies. To recap, we've discussed some really helpful tips for choosing the freshest white button mushrooms. Chloe talked about checking for firmness. Maya focused on color. Emily discussed size. Sarah mentioned the smell. And I highlighted packaging. We also explored some great alternatives. Sarah's zucchini, Maya's portobellos, Emily's shiitakes, and Chloe's cremini mushrooms. I'm so grateful for all your insights and creativity. Thanks again for joining us today. We hope you found these tips and stories helpful. It's always fun to share experiences and learn from each other. Until next time, happy cooking.